Welcome to this week's podcast with UAC. Joseph Johnson with you as always, and continuing my talks with Dr. Michael Yesis, my mentor now for 26 years, and we're still doing it. And this week we wanted to talk about something that was kind of interesting because sports in high school in this country. A lot of them have either been canceled or delayed, and then you have other states where they're playing, and that poses an interesting question about conditioning. Like when you here in Michigan, what they've done in the last just week or so was they said, well, we don't know when it's going to start, so everything was kind of tenuous, and then they said no football, and then yesterday or day before yesterday they said, we're going to play football in 2 weeks. So the question is, what were you doing in August, to get ready for the season? And this brings up a really interesting question, which is preseason conditioning and in-season conditioning, because now the team has, I think they had like 10 days to get ready, something like that, maybe a little bit longer to get ready for the season. And the impulse of most coaches, especially those who maybe don't have a good understanding of physiology, will be like, we've got to get to work and we've got to really run real hard and get after this to get these guys in shape. To which I've always said, you can't microwave fitness. There's no such thing as, it's kind of like, the way that I related it to people was that it's like, if a cake is, you're going to bake it at 300 and you try to put it on 900, it doesn't bake faster. It has to be at the pace that it's at for it to do well. So Doc, what I wanted to do with this is I wanted to get all your thoughts on what is conditioning, how should that be viewed by the coaches? And then we're going to get into specifics like with track and field, cross country, and we'll also get into some team sports. What should that look like leading up and then in season conditioning, if that's such a thing? I'd like to get your thoughts on this. So I know from our experience, and I'm going to let you talk about that the Russian idea all along was there's no such thing as preseason conditioning. You're in condition all year round. You train all year round. Now, people say, oh, you shouldn't train all year round. You're going to get injuries. And this is a misnomer in the United States. It's not overtraining all year round. It's training at a level of volume that makes sense, that will be something that you can do over the long term and progressively improve. When people here say specialize or train all year round, what they really mean is over volumized training way too much all year round. That's the problem. It's not training all year round. So I want to talk about that. Tell me what the Russian approach was first.
Yeah. See, I think there are two things here. See, in relation to what you were saying, their training is the same thing, whether it be in season or off season. So that's where the conflict comes in. But more importantly, and it's really surprising, if you take a look at all the exams that a future coach would take, they always have questions on periodization. Everybody takes periodization, sure, this is how you should periodize the training. But very few do it. This is where the problem is. Now, the typical concept, and this comes from the Russians, periodization has 4 phases. The first one is conditioning. Once you're in condition, and this takes X amount of time, once you're in condition, then you go into pre-competitive conditioning. Now the work is more specialized. So you can still be conditioning, but it's really preparation for your sport. So if you want to call it conditioning or preparation, it makes no difference, or maybe it should. We should think in terms of preparing the athlete for competition. Then the third phase is competition. And then this is followed by recovery or the post-competitive season. But you'll notice that there's only one period or one phase of conditioning. So you don't do it all year round. See, each phase has to build on the other phase. But they think one phase does all, and it can't. Now, when we deal with athletes, rather than think in terms of conditioning, I like to think in terms of preparation or a foundation. See, the first thing we have to do is lay down a foundation for the athlete. Then with this foundation, he can do anything and everything, but he has to be prepared to do it. And this is where the 1x20 strength training system comes in. See, it lays the foundation. You are now prepared. But if you don't lay a foundation, you're spinning your wheels no matter what you're doing. You can be doing the same thing year round and you're going to be getting the same results. You're going nowhere. It's like running or trying to drive a car in mud. Can't do it. Your wheels are going to be spinning, and that's what the athlete's going to be doing. He's not going to get anywhere. So let's go on to more specific things now.
Yeah, so that leads me to one other quick question too. One of what you mentioned was that a lot of coaches will do the same thing all year round in terms of conditioning and even in season. The thing that's interesting about it is that they only look at the amount of work they gave the athlete, not how the athlete performed the work. So if they were running, let's say, 10 gassers, they didn't look to see how fast they could be done at. They only looked at, well, we just gave them more. Well, maybe that last gasser, they might have been almost walking. That's not conditioning anymore. They're not capable. So their repeats. I think one of the things that it should be a term maybe that is more appropriate is repeat sprint ability in conditioning, where you can run at the same speed for this many repetitions with this much rest. Right. That gives us more of an insight into what kind of condition you're in. Not, well, we had them run 30 gassers. Well, they didn't run 30 gassers. They might have run 12 of them. And then they jogged 10, and then they walked or, trotted for 5, but they didn't run.
Yeah, everything gets slowed down.
Yeah. So, and the thing is, though, but on the court, let's say it's basketball or let's say it's soccer, we don't need them to trot a bunch. We need them to be all out fast for a longer period of time. That is the holy grail, is how long can they keep that top speed up. So I think that's a misnomer, and it's really deceiving because coaches will think that these guys are in great shape because you could run them so many gassers. That tells you absolutely nothing, except that the athlete's propensity to get injured now went way up. But that's the only thing it tells you. It doesn't tell you anything else objective. And it's a nonsensical. So now, I've had this thought. It was always interesting to me, especially with high school track and field. And so a lot of the sports, that athletes come to us, a lot of them are team sport athletes. And so that whole idea is a little bit different than track and field. I got some track and field athletes and some cross country athletes. And I always thought it was interesting that, number one, the preseason would be 2 weeks, which, if you're trying to get in the top shape, that's not going to happen. I mean, it's impossible. It's impossible. Right. Now, the thing that I think is even more crazy is that track practice occurs every day during the season. So that means if you're a sprinter, let's say, for example, and you have meets on Tuesday and let's say Friday, you have practice on Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And a lot of track teams, I would almost say most, probably, sprint on Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday and expect for Tuesday, Friday to be the athlete's best times. Respond to that. Just tell me what you think about that.
Yeah, it's idiotic. You sprint one day, you need recovery the next day. Your body doesn't recover very quickly after a sprint workout. It takes time. The body has to replace the nutrients that were used up, has to bring in new nutrients, has a store of them, so these can be used for the next day that they're going to be sprinting. So the minimum is 1 day that you have to take off and have them do something else. This doesn't mean they don't do any training. They can still train. They can do exercises with the active course, knee drive, pull back, lunges, and so on. These will all help. In other words, do work that's going to help your sprinting, but you're not sprinting.
Right.
So that
And let me give you one other quick little side thing I'd like you to address too. Also, with the sprinting, we have to look at the recovery in between the sprints and the workout.
oh yeah.
What? Tell me, what should that look like?
All right. Now here's where time comes in. If you're sprinting at 100%, you need about 5 to 8 minutes for recovery,
Minimum.
minimum. Now you might want to go a little less if you're pushing him to get a little bit more anaerobic development,
Right.
or even aerobic. So it depends upon what the objectives are. But if let's say in a race, on race day, if he's going to run more than one race, he needs at least, well, if it's all out, it's a long race, he needs longer time. If it's only a 100-meter sprint, then he can do another race after about, half hour, an hour. But the more time in between, the more time you have for recovery.
Right.
But on race day, of course, you don't have that luxury.
Right.
You have to go according to the schedule. But you can't, the more you do, the less the results. You have
Right.
to
So if
what
they're
am I-
doing
what
that
am I
in
getting?
practice,
Yeah, what am I getting out of that race? What am I getting out of that practice? You got to look at the results, not just do it because, hey, this is a great workout. Or what? There are many great workouts.
Yeah.
Have a shot on the wall and say, great workout today, great workout today. What'd you do in the race? When it came race day, oh, he came in last.
Right. Well, that's the question that comes up here, Doc. So like, there's a track practice should be really kind of brief and simple especially in the season, right? Because if you're running the 100, let's say, and it's Monday and you got to run tomorrow, running all out at 100% probably isn't a brilliant idea because you're not going to be recovered by the meet tomorrow. Am I right?
Oh, definitely. See, here's the key, Joseph, and you know it as well as I do. You have to be prepared before the season. You can't do the conditioning in season. So when the season comes, you're already as physically fit as possible. You've done a lot of sprint training. So now on your, you're really just preparing yourself, keeping loose, doing a little bit of warm up here and a couple of exercises here, maybe doing something different. Throw the javelin a little bit. Take a break. Then on race day, you're sprinting all out.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, and we're talking sprints right now, I'm going to go over into distance in a moment. In sprints, on Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, which are your days of practice, and you run the 100 meters, how much sprinting 100% should you be doing at that time of the year?
Very, very few.
So you're saying no Mondays?
Not before race day, no.
Okay. And Thursdays, no sprinting?
No.
Wednesday, what would you do?
Now, you might do a couple of sprints to work on specific problems.
Yeah.
I need a little bit more work on the starts.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not getting up to speed. I need more acceleration work. So then you can do a couple of things for acceleration.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe some flying starts or something like this.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't go all out for 100.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be more injurious.
So you're really saying if you run the 100 meters, once you're in season, you only run the 100 meters on race days.
That's it.
See, now this is like heresy, right? At the high school level, especially, and probably is at the college level as well. I don't know as many coaches at that level, and at the Olympic level, at least they understand that. I think most of the coaches get that you just cannot. You cannot do that, and a lot of the Olympic guys. You correct me if I'm wrong, but from the Olympic coaches that I've been around, they say the athlete when they go to the Olympics, he won't run almost a week before the Olympics, his first race. They said minimum of 5 days out, he stops, but never, sometimes 7, depending on the
Right.
athlete, how they peak, right?
Yeah.
So that tells you that if an Olympic sprinter has an unbelievable nervous system, resiliency, decades of training minimum, right? If he needs that much rest and you're a 15-year-old in high school, I mean, to me, the logic says you need a lot of, your body's not equipped for it yet.
All right. See, let me interpose one thing here. It's not rest that they need. It's the ability to maintain their fitness level. And by fitness, I mean their ability to run the race well.
Yeah.
It's not, how many squats can I do today or tomorrow? Has nothing to do with that type of conditioning. But it's to keep the body alert and the nervous system working, nervous system keyed in, rather than how can I improve it? You're not looking for improving. Well, to a certain extent you are, but only during the race. So on the off days, you're looking at things that can help improve the total speed. But the racing is not the key. It's picking out the individual little things that have to be done to allow the runner to be faster. You're trying to improve his speed, not just to see how he's going to be able to repeat 100-meter sprints every single time there's a meet.
Right, and you're not looking for improvements in his top speed necessarily. A lot of times at that point, you're looking at, like you said, starts, acceleration. You're trying to shave some stuff off in that area. But the actual top speed, you're not going to be able to touch that by training during the season because you really can't tolerate much of it, correct?
Well, no, you can. In season, you can increase speed. This is what you can work on. So maybe on one of the days, like you mentioned Wednesday, maybe you'll do some downhill running on this day. Or you'll do some overspeed running if the athletes are high enough level.
Now, I'm talking high school now, so I want to make sure.
Yeah. All right. See, that high school, this gets mighty tough. Yeah.
Yeah, they can't really tolerate overspeed training, I wouldn't think.
No, they're not.
So let me back up though, because you brought it up, and I'm gonna kind of let you talk just briefly about that too. When you talk overspeed training, you're talking about either being pulled by one of the pulley systems, being pulled by another sprinter in front of you, or downhill running. Now, this is tricky, so I want to make sure this is clear. Downhill running is not just any hill that you find. If I remember correctly, Vereshevsky had mentioned that it was about a 2% grade to where sprinters could run downhill, and that's it. If it's more than that, it's no longer overspeed training. It's not effective. Talk about that for a minute. The rules of overspeed training, since we're on that.
All right. The key here is to not change the running technique. See, if you go more than 2 degrees, you're going to be changing how you run. And this is going to interfere with what you've already learned in your nervous system and what you've already developed and solidified. So you're going to be, that kind of work will be antagonistic to improvement. But if you keep, let's say, just a low little grade, you can run as usual, but you will find yourself running faster. You can't help it because you're actually falling. Even though you're not falling,
yeah, right.
It's hard to explain, but this
you're
is
trying to keep up.
You have to run faster. It just forces you to move the legs faster. And to a certain extent, you can do this with the active cords. This is why they've proven so successful. So you can drive the thigh a little faster. See, this is what the cords allow you to do. You could do it for strength, you could do it for speed, you could do it for explosive power. So you modify how you do the exercise. So now we can do an exercise that enables you to run faster. See, that's the key that we usually forget. You have to do something to develop the body to enable it to go faster. But running repeat 100s is not doing this. the more you repeat the same thing, the slower you're going to become.
It's just developing more anaerobic conditioning.
Right.
It's not really. It's not developing speed.
Right. And it's more, it's anaerobic in terms of your energy supply, but it also has to do with the ability of the muscles to contract faster.
Right. Right. And the nervous system to keep up. And
right. So it's all nervous system training.
Sure. So, and by the way, one other little side note is like the run and shoot would be an example of overspeed training as well. It's a different, but it has a similarity there too. That's one other method that can be used there. So when you talk about overspeed, I want to establish it. That's out for high school athletes. They are not ready for that
right.
for the most part. That's so then let's back up then. So Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, no overspeed training, no sprinting. We could do some stuff with the active cords maybe on Wednesday, right? Our
right. Oh yeah, definitely.
Our knee drive, our paw back, because the recovery time on those is no more than 24, maybe 48 hours at the most. But
depending on how long, it could even be a lot less.
Yeah. They're single joint movements, and they're not real hard on the nervous system.
Right.
So they're not that hard. I would say 24 hours would probably be average. You could recover and be fine the next day. So
I would say even less.
Yeah, so even less. So if that's the case, okay, that's plausible. But here's the thing then. I want to, because I really want this to be a takeaway that people are real clear on. Track practice in season is almost a waste of time. Almost. Like it is I would say 90% of what's being done is a waste of time. Not only is it a waste of time, it's counterproductive.
Yeah.
Because I tell coaches this, I said, you have a bank account, which we'll call adaptation, and you do different activities, and then the bank, satisfies the debts of the adaptation. When it's gone, it's gone. And then the body will not adapt to anything else in a positive manner. It goes into a different mode. I don't want to say fight or flight, but you understand what I'm saying. It becomes taxed, and there's no more adaptation going on. It's no longer responding in a positive way. And that's it. And you can't do anything about it until the bank account gets replenished. And so with the idea, because I think coaches have at the high school level, not as much at the college level, but the high school level, they have a pressure to show, hey, I'm working them. I'm trying my best here. But the fact is, the way that the high school system is set up for track and field is counterproductive in its essence. You don't do anything with them till 2 weeks before the season, and most of the practice happens during the season when it's too late. That ship's already sailed.
That's right.
So we're making a statement right now. We're going to just say track practice in general is a waste of time, and it probably shouldn't last no more than about 20 minutes, I would guess, for the most part.
Yeah, which is a shame, but I think you hit the more important part. I think the governing bodies in the high schools have to change the rules. See, they did this no more than 2 weeks out, because this gave the coaches an idea. Hey, I can train football players year round now. So they were trying to limit how much training the football players could do.
Right.
But they made all the other sports pay the price.
Right.
Which is stupid.
Yes.
Hey, you want to train year round? Train year round.
Yes.
Means somebody's going to lose out someplace along the line.
Yeah.
In terms of what they're going to miss with other types of athletes or other types of development. Because practice, especially in football, from what I've seen and you see, I've seen, I remember sitting in the stands with you one year, and we're watching the football practice, and most of it was verbal. They spent about 30 minutes talking to the athlete about what they should do, and the athletes got on the field for about 15 minutes. That's not a practice.
Right.
It's giving the coaches a chance to mouth off.
And they do love to hear themselves talk. That's for sure. That's a never-ending thing. So okay, so I want to make one other quick point on track on like the sprints. one of the things that people will say to me that they think is crazy is that we would have, like a football player, for example, at the beginning in the 1x20 phase, we'll have them run the mile. And people say, well, that's crazy. They never run the mile. And they said that's aerobic. And to which I say, well, it's on a spectrum or continuum, if you will. It may be aerobic, but there's some anaerobic component there. And then the more the distance shortens, it becomes less aerobic, more anaerobic, obviously. But it's still there. There is an aerobic level there. And because you're dealing with high school athletes, even if the athlete is a sprinter, if let's say you worked all year round and you're practicing the summer before and before track, so 9 months early, it would be not really make a lot of sense to have the athlete running really short distances 10 months in advance when how's he going to make any progress off of that? You know what I mean? Olympic athletes is a different story, but at the high school level, we should be developing their overall fitness and aerobic stuff in the summer before, not running the 100 or the 200 when the athlete, you know what I mean? Could you talk about that real quick? Talk about what the flaws are in that thinking?
Well, the biggest flaw, the way I see it, is that they're not looking at what aerobic training means and what it does. Now, the aerobic abilities of an athlete are used mainly for recovery. It's the aerobic system that kicks in to help the athlete recover. And when you're going, let's say, all out on a sprint, all three systems are involved. So you have the pure anaerobic, the mixed anaerobic, where you have aerobic and anaerobic, and the aerobic. So maybe anaerobic, the pure anaerobic is right at the top when you're sprinting, and the combination is also up at the top because a high school athlete doesn't have the ATP stores to last the full 10 seconds or more. So they need more. Now, the elite athlete, they'll be able to almost go 10 seconds all out with pure anaerobic. But most often, they use both the anaerobic and mixed anaerobic. And then at the end, the aerobic system comes in.
Yeah, because the athletes, and I want to pick up on a point that you just made, that you said that the Olympic athlete, can last almost 10 seconds, but they start to decelerate at around 85, 90 meters. Am I right about that? Somewhere in that ballpark. Now, I really, this is really an important point I'd like for you to elucidate. Where does where would you say the average 15, 16-year-old's ATP starts to fall?
Well, I'm not sure I know.
But it's shorter. It's definitely, they're
much
not going to 90 meters to decelerate.
No, not even
They start
close.
decelerating much earlier. Am I correct?
Right.
And you say that and from what you're saying is that deceleration is caused by a lack of aerobic, partly the aerobic system, or mixed. I should say mixed.
Yeah, it's more the mixed anaerobic.
The mixed anaerobic. Right. So you're saying that's so that which kind of says to us that the overall conditioning of the athlete, if that just improved, they'd be faster.
Yes. This is why you have to lay a good foundation. You have to develop all these systems and then have them work as you do the sport exercise.
Okay.
To get that foundation is the key.
Yeah.
And this is what conditioning should be all about.
Yeah.
Developing the abilities to allow you to do whatever it is you want to do.
So that sprinter should, if it's 9 months in advance of the season, that sprinter will be running distances to start, especially at those younger ages at the high school.
Oh, definitely.
You're not a lot of people get the idea that, well, this is what the Olympic guys do, what I should do. No. It took them 10 years to be able to do that, or 15 years to get to that point. They're doing what they need to do because the aerobic stuff now is no longer an issue. It's developed up to the potential that they need it to. But if you're 16 years old, you need to be somewhere else. You need to be developing those other qualities. Now, I'm going to give you one other quick question too, because I think this is always interesting. I've heard coaches tell me that they like it when the athlete is sore because it tells them that they did something and they work these muscles. Now, I'm going to set this up. You're sore, you're a college or a high school athlete, you're in season and you're sore and you've got to meet tomorrow. What does that soreness mean to your performance the next day?
I think it's kind of obvious.
It's not, Doc. Go ahead and explain.
Soreness,
It's not obvious.
Soreness is an example of injury. You're sore because there's injury. Your muscles are injured. Or your
You're
ligament.
saying that's not good?
Never good.
So what you're telling me is you're not going to run faster tomorrow if you're sore today?
You're going to run slower.
What? Wow. Okay. You know how many coaches have told me that soreness is, that's a sign. That's a good sign. Which we're doing something, right?
See, this comes from bodybuilding. In the early days, this is what was believed. Oh, the sorer you are, the better the workout was.
Yeah.
It's stupid when you come to think of it. This is
what I think it's stupid, but I mean, that's just me.
Yeah. You take a look at, and I remember this very well because I worked a lot with bodybuilders when I worked with Muscle and Fitness magazine. They still believe that the harder you work out and the more soreness you have, the better the workout.
Yeah.
Because they think you're going to recover even more so as you get rid of the soreness. No, all training should be pain-free. If you're sore, you did too much.
So you're saying that, let me back up. You're saying that in season, if you're sore, you did something wrong.
That's right. Whether it's in season or out of season.
You're saying sore, period.
Period.
This is what I've always told athletes. You might get a little soreness when we very first start the workouts because you've never done anything at 11, 12, 13 years old. Whenever we start, you might get a little sore the first week just because we don't know what your threshold is for work capacity. So you're going to get a little sore. And then you might get a soreness here and there when we change gears from like GPP to SPP because it's new. You might see a little bit, but not a lot. Maybe a little bit, maybe a day or so. But that should be it. Otherwise, I tell them 90%, 95, 98% of the year, you should never be getting sore. And if you are getting sore, it's your body's way of saying you're stupid. Your body's saying, hey, stupid, slow down. It's sending you a signal to stop. Why do you think you got sore? Your body's sending the signal to say stop. Am I right?
You got it.
It's a self-defense mechanism. It's not a mechanism. You don't have a built-in workout mechanism in your brain that's there to tell you you had a good workout. That's not how it works. It's a mechanism that says you're stupid. And stop. I'm trying to preserve.
Best way to put it.
I mean, it's like a hangover. If you drank a lot, like you got wasted the night before, and you're puking the next day, that's your body saying you're a moron. Am I right? Say, listen, we're trying to
think of it that way.
You know what I mean? I always look at the hangover the same way of the training, soreness and fatigue the next day. I'm like, your body is working in its own self-interest. It's saying, listen, stop pouring that much alcohol down me. I'm going to keep sending it back up and making you miserable until you stop. And soreness or after training, soreness and hurting and pain is your body's it's the same mechanism of the body saying, stop. It's trying to preclude you from doing it again.
Yeah, but Joseph, it doesn't work that way in real life. It should. And if we were smart enough, and I think maybe that's the key, we wouldn't do it. But today, you'll hear athletes say, or the person say, let's say they wake up with terrible headache and hungover, and they'll say, "Yeah, but I had a good time."
Yeah, people are dumb, right? Yeah, they figured it was worth the price.
Yeah, so if they have a good time, they're going to do it again.
It was worth it.
Yeah, I know how many times I hear somebody say, "Yeah, but hey," or even ask, "Did I have a good time?"
Yeah. They don't even.
How stupid is that?
Right. Yeah, they passed out, right? And the other thing about this, Doc, the funnier thing with athletes is like You didn't even have a good time. You didn't get anything out of it. You worked hard. That wasn't fun. You felt terrible the next day. That made you miserable. And you actually got worse at what your objective was. I mean, that's the most, that's the most irrational behavior in the world. To do something you don't like that you'll regret later and that you don't get any result from.
See, and I think we have to emphasize something that you just said. This is what I've been saying all my life. Workouts are lousy, miserable, hard, any other adjective you want to put in there, experiences. They're not fun and games. If you're serious, they're miserable. Even when you do repeat, 50s or 40s or whatever, all out. Nobody can tell me that. Boy, I was laughing all the way as I ran, as fast as I could.
Right.
So, you're going to go through enough pain. I use the term loosely here, and discomfort, all to develop the ability to do your best on that one day of competition.
Right.
Whether you're a runner or a team athlete, regardless.
Right. So really, I always, this is what I tell the different coaches, and there was a book that was written about, I don't know how many years ago, and I haven't even read the book, but I like the title. It's about a guy, I think they were in canoeing or kayaking, one of those sports at the high level, right? And the title of the book was, Will It Make the Boat Go Faster? Which is the crux of training. Will it make me better at the thing that I do? That's all that matters. So if you're a 100-meter sprinter, will it make me faster? And if it doesn't make me faster, what are we doing? It doesn't make any sense. So if we don't achieve the goal and we take solace in the fact that we worked hard, in my opinion, you're stupid. What was the point? I want to be better. I don't care about how hard the work was. That's irrelevant. It's how smart was it. It's how smart it was. So, all right, let's transition real quick. I don't want to go too long on this, but I want to talk about this. Let's take this idea over into longer distances. So I think at the high school level, they might go up to 3,200 meters, I think. And then you got cross country, which is about 3.5 miles, right? Okay, so you hear stories of 2-milers and cross country people running every day of the week and putting, I'm going to give you a range. Let's say they're running 20 to 50 miles a week and they run every day. What's your response to that? What would you change about that?
Well, again, it goes back to, what are you trying to achieve? The ability to complete 30 miles a week or 50 miles a week? So what? What kind of development did you get? All your workouts have to lead to something. They have to develop your body to enable you to do something else that's going to be tougher or harder. So doing 50 miles a week, to me, is not impressive, except from the point of, I completed 50 miles. Maybe I was running slow as molasses.
Now they'll say though that was necessary. Like they need at least X amount of miles a week. And I'd like to hear from you. What do you think the minimum of miles a week that a cross country runner should be running during the season?
That's a good one. See, because again, it's going to depend upon the athlete. Mm-hmm. I don't want to sound like a cop out here.
No. But give us a general idea. I know that there's a range, but give us the range and the reason for the range.
All right. The key, even in a long distance race, is to go as fast as possible.
Correct.
So why do very slow running? I would limit it. I would take a look at each athlete. What is he doing? I would go by times. All right. You can do a mile. What's your time? 2 miles. What's your time? And every time, let's say it's going to be a workout of, let's say 3 or 4 miles. Are you maintaining the same speed for the 5 miles? If not, then we have to cut back. I don't care, whatever your race is, if you're trying to develop a particular quality, you have to train to get that quality developed. And for the aerobic system, you have to get your heart rate in a range of 120 to 150. So is your heart rate in that range? If it's below that range, you're going too slow. So you have to be a little scientific. I almost hesitate using that term because once you say scientific, most coaches shy away from it.
Yeah.
But you have to use a little bit of science, and I equate that with common sense or good sense. So find out what the heart rates are. Are the athletes staying at a particular heart rate? When they go into the mixed zone, are they doing about 160, 170 heart rate? See, what is the heart rate? That should be the key factor to determine how much and how fast you should be going. I'm more interested in how fast you're going rather than how long are you going. Now, as a freshman, I might want to do a little bit longer, even if I'm slower, because maybe they don't have enough aerobic development. So this way of ensuring a little bit more. But typically, even there, I have to take a look at what the heart rates are. See, and this will adjust and guide. See, that's the key. It'll guide the workout.
Yeah.
Not just what the coach says. Hey, we got to do X amount of miles. The heck with the miles. It should be, I want you running at a particular heart rate as long as you can. That's the key.
And then when it drops, then we're done.
Yeah. So when it comes race day, I want you running at a heart rate of so-and-so. But I don't want you training with your heart rate at 120 and go into a race and now your heart rate is 150 or 160.
Because you can't tolerate it for very long.
No, that's why you'll burn out and
slow way down.
You hit the wall very quickly.
So what you're saying is you're wanting those athletes to stretch out the ability to run at, let's say, 150. We want to stretch that from a mile to a mile and a half, 2 miles. You know, we're constantly trying to stretch that out. But the workout should be one where, and I'm gonna throw it out and then you complete the sentence. So if I'm on Monday, I've got a Tuesday meet. No, let me rephrase. Just in a general sense, if I'm this is preseason, we haven't had any meets yet. I'm gonna run, at 150, and I'm getting up to, let's say, I got up to 2 miles, and then it went down. That I'm done for the day, correct? Okay, so
Right.
so that's 2 miles. So let's just say, for example, if I extrapolated what you're saying onto the way that they train, even if the athlete was in perfect condition, they wouldn't run more than 15 to 17 miles a week because you got 2 race days and then you've got 4 other training days. And if they're up 3.5 miles at 150, that's not that many miles.
We have to go back to our earlier conversation. This training should be done pre-season.
Right. That's what I'm trying to establish. That's pre-season. So in season would really be it's really crazy to be putting those kinds of miles.
Right.
You're saying it's too many miles even in preseason. 50 miles is.
Oh yeah.
So I wanted to just show how nonsensical that would be, or illogical, that in season it's even less. Okay, so
let me back up.
Yeah, go ahead.
Not just less, it's practically non-existent.
I knew you were going to say that.
Doing long distance running.
Yeah.
You save that for the actual day of the meet.
Yeah.
But
because the aerobic's already established, right?
That's right. You've already established being able to run at a particular heart rate. Now, in season, maybe you would do a little bit more mixed anaerobic work. See, so you do some short segments,
Some fartlek type of stuff.
right? Either fartlek or even just pure mixed running. See how fast you have to go to kick in the mixed aerobic anaerobic systems. So then you do a little bit of this training, but it's only going to be for what, 100, 200, 300 meters, period. So you're working on that one little element. Now, come race day, hopefully you developed a little bit more of this system, so you'll be able to maintain a higher heart rate for a longer period of time. That's what you're trying to achieve.
And that's the objective.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is cross country and the 2 milers in track, in season training is really, like running distance doesn't make any sense at all.
Nope.
It should be shorter distances, higher heart rates, fartleks, intervals, things of that nature, mixed system stuff. So in reality, if let's just put a number on it just for fun. Let's say it was the total, we have 4 practices. We probably are only, what you're saying is 4 or 5 miles a week probably would do the trick.
Could even be less.
But definitely not more.
Nope.
Okay. All right. Because you realize you're speaking heresy. So I want to be clear on these things, because I've heard of reports of a high school cross country team that's putting 100 miles in a week. Now, do you think there's going to be any injuries from that?
You better believe it.
It's guaranteed.
Yeah.
And let me ask you one other question. If you have injuries in cross country, which obviously is non-contact, is there any situation where that's not an overwork syndrome?
I can't think of any.
So you're saying to me, if there's an injury in cross country, it's the coach's fault?
Yeah.
Every time?
He did not prepare them for the race.
Every time without exception?
Every time.
Okay. So there's no mystery. Shin splints, hip flexors, all these different things, low back problems. They're all, and sometimes let me throw one little curve in there. Sometimes it could be technique. If they're a heel hitter, you're going to develop some stuff there too. But once again, that's the coach's responsibility as well.
Sure, and even more than that, I wanted to mention that another key factor is working on their technique.
Right.
Work on their skill.
Which a lot of coaches aren't qualified to do.
No.
They don't have the background at all for that.
Right, and few coaches do.
And the books that are out, there that are written in the United States, what do you tell me about what their ideas on technique? What would you how does those technique books in the United States on distance running compare to the ones internationally, or your books?
Oh, there's no comparison.
So what you're saying is the biomechanics in this country is almost non-existent.
You got it.
In sports.
Sorry, yeah, sad to say.
But they don't compare.
Yeah, and one of the biggest, like for example, one of the biggest problems I see with cross-country runners is shoulder rotation. When they're running, you see those shoulders going all over the place. See, that's telling you right away they don't have the physical ability to hold the shoulders in place. See, and
the trunk is not as stable or strong enough to be able to keep everything.
Right.
Yeah.
See, and then near the end of the race, you see how the stride length gets less and less.
Mm-hmm.
That means the muscles are fatiguing. They can't drive the leg forward anymore.
Right.
See, they're not doing exercises like the knee drive.
Right.
If they did this and developed the ability to repeat hundreds or thousands of reps, then how can you expect them to maintain the speed? They can have the aerobic or physiologically, the aerobic or anaerobic system well developed. But if the muscles aren't ready, the muscles can't carry it out. But typically in the training, your muscle will be getting developed as you're developing the systems.
Right.
but sometimes there's still a discrepancy,
Right.
especially when you start going faster.
Yeah. Okay, Doc. As always, you and I run long in the tooth. Let's come back to team sports next week and go through that
Okay.
process too, because that one we're both long-winded probably. But this was good information. I actually, you made some points that I learned too, so I really appreciate that, and I think that it's going to be really eye-opening for a high school coach, because these are so counter to everything that they're taught or they think or they've learned. And I want to say this too, for the coaches. This isn't like a knock. They don't know any better. It's not their fault. There was no opportunity to learn. We don't have a coach development system like the Russians did, or the Chinese, or the Germans. They had a system of developing coaches, which we don't have in this country.
Right.
And we don't have sports science in this country at all. A lot of people think we do, but we really don't. It's non-existent in the United States. There's no such thing as sports science departments the way that they had them in other countries, correct?
Right.
And so it's not anybody's fault, but look, if you have an opportunity to learn, here it is. This is counter to what you've learned, but I can tell you that the results don't lie. I've been eyewitness to them for 26 years. We get results like nobody that I've ever met on any level. It's not even close. So as I tell everybody, the thing that matters are the results, ultimately. But then you reverse engineer the results back to what they do. And that's the way that this should be approached, in my opinion. So let's come back to this next week, Doc. I really like this conversation because I think it's going to be very, very informative and a missing, component. You got anything else to say about it before we check out?
Well, just to help the coaches, as you were talking about their education, I would strongly recommend that they pick up a copy of Explosive Running.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
This is a book that not only tells you all about the running technique and how it should be and what's most effective, which includes cross-country running, middle distance running, as well as sprinting. Covers all three. As well as the exercises, strength exercises that you can do that are specific to each of the joint actions in running. So you're getting this, and with this background, I would hope there'd be coaches maybe writing you or writing me with questions based on more knowledge that they can get from reading the book. So,
yeah, listen, guys, you can go on UA Concepts or dryesus.com, pick up the book. It's on Amazon if you got Prime, and that's important to you. It's on Prime. And I would say if you want to go one step deeper, pick up Dr. Yesus's Biomechanics and Kinesiology of Exercise. This will talk about some of the other, the off-season training, and you'll learn what the exercises and how they relate, to the overall picture. That could also be I think it's a great encyclopedia of exercise resource for everyone, because then you start to learn what muscles are involved in movements and what exercises, develop that. I think that's another really good title. So it's on Amazon, it's on dryesus.com, it's on uaconcepts.com. Check us out on any one of those, and you definitely won't be disappointed. Thanks a lot, Doc. I appreciate it as always. This is a great talk, and I look forward to talking to you next week.
All right, sounds good.
All right.